Everybody, Texas Stroke here, Lance's Performance Shop, LoneStarMopars.com. It is Saturday night, July 6th. It's a warm one, not hot, but warm. And if you think you hear a fan, you do, my apologies, but it's hot. And if you think you hear explosions, you also hear that too. Here where I live out in the country, there's no restrictions on fireworks. We didn't have a burn ban this year. And somehow, the people that invest countless thousands of dollars in fireworks haven't burned through all of them prior to the 4th, on Independence Day itself, and Friday night either. So my apologies on that. There's really nothing I can do. Same thing with the sheriff. But, what I wanted to do, not sure this will be the most popular video, but it'll certainly be interesting, at least I thought it would be, is take a look at something that's actually kind of hard to find, and that is a dedicated spark plug brush. I used to have one, and I attempted to bring in like an American generic, counterpart for this test. I was unable to find one, and the brushes I had that I could use weren't necessarily intended for spark plugs, so I felt it would be best to just kind of stick to our German shootout here. And the contestants we have Gedore, Hazet, and Stahlwille. That's left to right, alphabetical is how I decided to sequence them. We've showcased these in unboxings, and now it's time to kind of put them to work, see what they're made of, and see which one is ultimately best for you. So, we will get started here going over the rundowns on this guy. This is from Gedore. There's no branding at all. It's very basic. This is their part number 648. I picked it up for $3.99 on sale. It lists for $5.83 on KC Tool. That'll be our default price source here. The overall length, 101 millimeters. Translating that into my terminology, that's just under 4 inches at 3.98 inches. Keynote here, all measurements lengthwise will be taken with these 12-inch Mitutoyo digital calipers. Scale, we're putting the new Amazon one to work, except in the case of this Gedore, because it does not register. It is, I think I mentioned in the unboxing, it's super lightweight. It doesn't process. So that's about all I can do for you there. Setting that guy down, we also, we'll set him down. We'll come back to the rest of it. Right here now, this is Hazet's offering. It's a little bit more intricate than Gedore's unit. Their part number is 2131. It is made in Germany. I should mention this particular Gedore made in Germany. They do have one made in China with a plastic handle, sort of more akin to a toothbrush style. That said, this one made in Germany, price $626 on sale, retail would be $731. It is the most expensive of our test subjects, the Gedore being the cheapest. Actually, I take that back. Stahlwille is the cheapest. Nonetheless, sticking only to Hazet here. This one measures in at 148 millimeters or 5.86 inches, give or take a bit. Tips the scales at all of 8 grams. So it's by no means heavy, but it's significantly noticeable when you have that in your hand. Whatever that may be worth to you. Setting it back down, you will notice we have what appears to be a clone that just doesn't have the branding on this side like Hazet's does, and that's because it has it up here on the top side. This is from Stahlwille. We can get that to focus for you. Made in Germany, as you can see there. Their part number conveniently located below it, 12375. Now, this one, believe it or not, retail is $450, which is the cheapest, and it was on sale for $360, which is actually 39 cents less than the Gedore unit. Definitely worth noting. Now, I mentioned they were eerily similar, but I didn't want to get into it in that video. This one, take a wild guess. It's 148 millimeters, 5.86 inches, 8 grams. That's what it tips the scale at. So, in my initial synopsis, and again when I brought these in, I did not know what we would be dealing with, but I would venture to say that these are exactly the same. To the naked eye, just looking at them, they certainly appear to be that way, and then when you come in and we actually put the caliper to them and threw them on the scale, that's a lot of particulars to match up for that to be anything more than a coincidence. So, what I want to do now is kind of take a look at the Bristle structure and setup here. The Gedore, let me just go ahead and bring this in so you can see it a little bit better. That's right, making use of our grid paper. That one has a 2x5. There's essentially 2 columns, 5 deep on that. And then the way these 2 brushes, which are pretty much identical, match up, you've got 2 bristles would be your maximum width. You have 11 deep. And the way it works, it's staggered pattern. So where this is side by side, the length of the 5, you have significantly more bristles here. Everywhere you see an X, that's going to indicate there's a bristle, standalone, located in the middle, and then these two are going to be right and left counterparts, followed by a standalone, and it repeats all the way down until you basically have 6 standalones and 5 groups of bristles, which would match what we have here on the Gedore. Obviously, our Stahlwille unit, the exact same thing. So, there's 2 things we need to do now. We need to examine the bristles themselves and their count. For all we know, this could be 13 bristles per pocket, and the Gedore could have 26. Might be a better setup. Who knows? To do that, what I think I'm going to do is try to come in with the Knipex shears and cut off the bottom on these 2. Or although the top would probably be better, I'll basically the top or the bottom, and then I guess I'll do the same thing here on the Gedore. And we're going to attempt to hand count the bristles. Again, these 2 I'm expecting will be identical. This one I'm expecting it could have some variances in it. And then lastly, of course, we got to see how these things work. And we will cross that bridge when we get to it. Let me go off camera, cut this, and see what we're working with. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you bad decisions. As the fireworks go off in the distance, I have a terrible feeling that this won't grip and these will blow astray in the breeze of the fan. But let's try. You probably wonder what you're looking at. There you go. So, I initially tried cutting them with the Knipex shears, and that kind of worked, but it also created a mess. I'm going to have to include these. I could potentially count these with them intact. I'm not sure that's the best way, but I'll attempt it with a Hazet brush. But right now I've pulled this out and we've got that stake in place. I may give it a go and we'll see what we have. Alright, so now the dog behind me is going haywire, which is great. The people have abandoned it since Tuesday. That's cool. But right here, the Gedore, I attempted to cut it. That was probably a bad idea. I was able to pull it out, which worked way better. So here with the Hazet brush, I've actually just simply came in. This is exactly how I structured it. I pulled these guys back, got my teeth around everything I could, pulled it forward, and we've got the staple structure, if you will, the nail, the brad, whatever you want to call it. Obviously, this is X number of wires folded over, so we can either count them all and divide by 2, or we need to fold them over and count them individually. But that is Hazet's right there. And I guess, to be fair on the Stahlwille here, what I will do, and I'll try to showcase this with you watching so you can witness it. I'm going to come in as best I can right here. Let me bring this up a little. It's kind of hard to concentrate with the fireworks, I'm not going to lie. I don't know that I'll get as good of a fulcrum as I could at the top, but I'm going to pull it. You saw it here, hopefully, if I wasn't zoomed out too far. That is our Stahlwille bristle count. So I've got it set down. I've got the Hazet count set down. We're going to painstakingly count these. I predict these 2 will be exactly the same. And then, of course, we'll kind of put these through the paces with some plugs. So we will be back. All right, so a lot of time and effort later. What you see here is the aftermath of dismantling this top section of bristles off the Hazet brush. 70. There were exactly 70 strands. So if you fold that over, essentially what that means when you're looking at the head of this brush, there are 140 bristles in each one of these holes, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. Again, the way I'm counting 70, when you have these dismantled, let me try to get that where you can see it. Right there, it's very hard to see that, but it's V-shaped, right? So if we were to count here, it would double our count. I'm counting by the V. So there are 70 strands, just like this, V-shaped pieces, and that means, again, we don't just have 70 uprights, we have double that at 140, and that is per slot on the brush, which, again, is just insane to think about. But what I'm going to do, since I had snipped the Gedore one, I'm going to pull out another section of it. In fact, I guess we could try it right now together. That'll be a truer test. So right here. Perfect. So that's what I want. I'm going to keep it up here at the top. But again, 70 on the Hazet. I will count the Stahlwille. Sneaking suspicion it's going to be the same. But let's go ahead and get back to it, and hopefully the fireworks will die off a little bit by now. Alright, so a little bit of time has passed. Fireworks are still going off. It's basically 3-4 houses competing with one another at this point in time. But here we are. The Hazet bristle count. We had 70 per hole. Obviously that's going to be V-shaped formation, so 140 bristles per bunch, then 11 bunches of bristles if you want a tongue twister. On the Gedore, I went ahead, we had pulled this one, I'd kind of tried to cut it as well, as I get that into frame for you. We got a little smiley face there now. What I wound up doing to keep it fair, I'm going to slide this business card down into view, or actually I'll just pan out for it. Right there on that business card, covering up Colin's name, we have the exact count of bristles. Again, this was the one that we'd already done that I'd kind of accidentally mangled when I attempted to cut it. In retrospect, that was not the best way to break this down. 55 bristles. That's what we had, so obviously that means we're going to have 110 per hole, and then we've got 10 slots of bristles, 10 bunches of bristles at 110 per slot. So technically coming in, the Gedore was already undermanned. It doesn't have near the slots available, but it's also a lower bristle count. Again, 140 versus 110. Basically, each hole that this does have, it's already outperformed by 30 bristles. Now, are the bristles going to be stronger? Are they going to be more durable, better? That's what we're going to find out. The problem with spark plugs, they're either clean or they're used. And when you use a spark plug, it's going to vary. This is where things get real complicated. I would love to come in and clean 3 spark plugs that are exactly the same. And you can't really do that, and here's why. Primarily, I'm going off of V8s. I've got a 440 in the floor we're going to pull plugs from. This is a Virgin motor out of a 69 New Yorker, Chrysler Land Yacht, if I'm not mistaken. It will eventually be turned into a stroker, but it's as it was. The guy supposedly found it, some old couple had it, and he only wanted the motor and transmission. He pulled it, and then I wound up with it several years ago. So I'm going to pull those plugs. What you will have across each bank, 1, 3, 5, 7, 2, 4, 6, 8, you're not going to be able to get 2 plugs exactly the same. As much as I would love to, you just can't. There's just too many things to get a solid, this plug is exactly like this one. So I'm going to come in, we're going to test these as best we can. Let's run it over to the 440. In fact, first let me kind of show this to you. The Stahlwille, if you are wondering, exactly the same as our Hazet. There it is, kind of fanned out. Making good use of these tweezers too. But, that is what you would have 70 standalone bunches making 140 bristles. So kind of looks like a paintbrush at that point in time. But nonetheless, we will set that down. I'll take you to the 440. We're going to pull the plugs. And for the people that always rag on me saying you'll never use 13/16ths, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Chrysler plugs, old stuff, 13/16ths. Bigger, better than Ford and GM with their 5/8 stuff. So that's why if you ever hit the road in an old Chrysler and you got one of those universal kits and it's got like a 5/8 spark plug socket, you're screwed because you need 13/16ths. So without further ado, I'll get you over there. We will pull the plugs and then we will come back and see how these do actually cleaning the plugs. So welcome to a part of the shop you haven't seen. There's the old 440. Transmission's off to the side, but like I said, this is a Virgin 69. It's just been sitting in a New Yorker. It was pulled. I wound up with it, and I just had something crazy happen that I've never had happen. So if you watch the tool hauls, you heard me mention I wanted to bring in a Stahlwille breaker bar and an Epros breaker bar. Well, this is my only breaker bar. I didn't even think it had a brand on it. Apparently it's Proto. It's something that was in my granddad's toolbox. It's 1/2-inch drive. I got my adapter there, and I came in, there was a heat shield kind of a problem. So essentially 1, 3, I've got those loose. 5, I had a heat shield to deal with. I was like, screw it, I'll just grab 7. Well, I sure did. And it's right here. I have never broke a plug like that in my entire life. So there's a first time for everything. I guess we can go ahead and use it. I got to see if I can get that back end out. But right here, our number 1 plug. Let's go ahead and, again, I broke these free ahead of time. You can kind of get a preview of that guy. Number 3 right here, conveniently located by the dipstick tube. Luckily, these are exhaust manifolds, so it's easy. They significantly more rust on this one, but it's similar tips actually. Looks like she was running a bit rich. So 1, 3, and 7 will be our candidates, and I guess I'll find some way to hold that one to make it fair. But let's go ahead and get these guys back. I don't even know. We got an auto light. Yeah, that's an auto light, a power tip. That's got to be pretty old. Haven't heard of a power tip before. But let's make the most of it and see what we can do. Alright, so here we are. We've returned from the old 440. We've got number 1, number 3, and part of number 7, interestingly enough. So 1 will be assigned to Gedore, 3 will be Hazet, and then 7 will be our Stahlwille brush. Essentially what I want to do, obviously if we took enough time, I could make any one of these brushes do a fantastic job on these plugs. Now they might wear down quicker, but what I want to do sort of as a baseline is just come in here. I've got my watch handy. I'm going to set up a timer. We're going to go 30 seconds because I don't think that's too crazy obnoxious. I'm going to try to position the camera where you can see it. We'll just sort of time lapse through this. But again, 1, 3, and 7. Might give myself a little extra time to figure out how to hold that one. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to get started with Gedore. And here's this amazing little beauty. Once again, that's kind of what you'd expect from a vintage 69 motor. This one a little bit rustier, maybe not as much oil, but not in great shape by any means. And then of course, half of number 7 right here. So even it was running a bit rich. But without further ado, let me try to set up a shot where you can kind of monitor it. I'll have the timer going. Might use my phone if I can get that to show up for you. But we'll give them 30 seconds and we'll compare them, see what we think. Would you believe it if I told you we had just recorded, erroneously recorded 30 seconds of this? It stopped at about the 20-second mark is when the camera shut down, and I was like, why is it doing that? So I've got about 10 seconds here. I can tell you right now, this is a very small brush, which is kind of annoying, but these bristles are collapsing. I don't know if I can get a view of that for you. They're sort of just collapsing on themselves. And that's obviously making it a little bit harder to clean the plug, but I'm gonna say that's roughly 30 seconds. And right there you can kind of see our debris field. So what I'm gonna do now is hop over here to our Hazet. It's gonna be cleaning plug 3, and we are underway. This one's got a bit of rust on it, but again, we're focused more on the... Okay, this is significant difference, I would have to say. And I've just thought of something else we should do for the testing. Not sure how well you can see it, and I may time lapse this, but and time is up for the Hazet brush. There's its sort of debris field. I gotta say, that's not bad for 30 seconds. Now, this one will be challenging because it's part of a plug. Might impact things a little bit. But let's go ahead. We've got our Stahlwille and basically what's left of our 7th plug here. So let's go ahead and give it a go, get the timer started. And we're done. Plug 7 officially off the books there. It was a little bit difficult just because I didn't have anything to grab onto as well as with the others, but I kind of think I know my thoughts, and we're going to go ahead and see what yours are. So let me reset the shot, clean the table up a little bit, and we'll see how well we actually clean these plugs. Alright, so we're back. We've got our conclusions here. Now, the thing that I thought of that I didn't document ahead of time that actually turns out to be fairly significant is what I would just call the bristle height. Basically, how tall is the bristle from the base of the brush? In this case, we're measuring from where my index finger is to where my traffic finger is. And the reason I say that, this Gedore brush, it would kind of, because of the softer bristles, it would just sort of collapse down upon itself. You can kind of see what I'm talking about right there. So I'm working the brushes, but if they were a little stiffer or a little bit taller and had less deflection, it would be a superior cleaning process. When I come in and grab this Hazet brush, you can see the bristles notably are taller, and so when I come in, they also are stronger. They don't deflect near as much, so we're actually working better, at least in my opinion. So the difference between them, again, as you might have imagined, Hazet and Stahlwille, the same. They come in at 15.17 millimeters, or just shy, right under 6/10 of an inch. If you had a yardstick, a ruler, machinist, tape, whatever you had, it's going to be 6/10 of an inch essentially. And then the bristle height on the Gedore brush, 13.97 millimeters. Again, that's 1397 versus 1517. It's certainly noticeable by the eye, and it's closer to about 5.5, instead of 5.9, somewhere in there. So about halfway to 6/10 of an inch, if you want to call it that. Now, the overall bristle count, granted, we've kind of destroyed that, but if you were to buy them brand new, we've got the setup here, which is 2x5. There's going to be 55 V's, if you will, which that's going to double, so 110 bristles per bunch. There's going to be 10 bunches. 1,110 bristles are actually, if you were to contact an entire surface like my palm here, working at the same time. Hazet and Stahlwille, radically different design. Again, this is a situation, we've got thanks to the stagger pattern, we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 singles located in the middle, paired with 5 sets of 2, I should say. That's going to give us a total of 16 bunches of bristles. Again, this has 70 V's, or 140 per bunch. And when you do the math, you come to 2,240 bristles potentially working. Again, they are significantly stiffer as well. So case in point, if I were to come in and compare this, you can see the Stahlwille, or the Hazet brush, is down on the surface of our Gedore, but the Gedore does not touch the surface of the Stahlwille. Subtle difference, but when you factor in that these are actually more stiff, right? Like I'm putting pretty significant force on my thumb there. I'll do the same thing here with the Gedore unit. See how I'm able to bend that relatively effortlessly? That is the difference that we have between the bristle styles. In my opinion, we've got a situation where this is just a better brush in terms of material, in terms of craftsmanship, in terms of makeup. Now, this one's small, it would be more compact if that was ever an issue for you, but you're not giving up a lot of length, and in all honesty, I think you're going to save time brushing. So, with that said, we kind of have to wrap this up. Last place in this contest, I would actually have to give to Gedore. It comes in $3.99, which is pretty big savings over the Hazet. It's got some pros, but it just does not perform as well as the other two. Now, the Hazet and the Stahlwille performed very well, much better than the Gedore unit. The problem here is I think we've got a rebrand. The Stahlwille and Hazet, again, these are basically identical. I can't find any discernible differences between them outside of the branding, and more on that in a second. But the Stahlwille comes in at $360. That is less than this Gedore unit. All right, so it performs better and it costs less. You've got a clear winner there. Problem is, this is the exact same brush. However, consider the fact that you could almost get 2 of these for the price of 1 of these. There you kind of see the issue. Stahlwille, I've got some of their other brushes. I've been very, very impressed by them, and they're very competitive. This isn't a situation where this is a German tool, so it's just extravagantly priced. It's a situation where you could take their wire brushes like I brought in and compare it to readily available stuff in America. Mintcraft, US made, Chinese stuff on the shelf at Lowe's and Home Depot. And they're right there with them in terms of the price. And in some cases, they're actually priced better, and I believe this is a better brush in many of those cases. That said, sticking only to the spark plug realm, if you rebrand something, like if Hazet was the one making these brushes, it makes 0 sense for them to sell them to Stahlwille, and then Stahlwille mark them up to make their profits and all their distributors happy, and come in at like almost half the price. That's absurd. When you look at it the other way, if that was Stahlwille doing that to Hazet, then you're like, oh, well, maybe they made the part. Now, it could be some factory in Germany could have made all 3 of these. Maybe Stahlwille buys in bulk more. I don't know, but I can tell you, you would be crazy to set yourself up in that manner. It's very, very rare that you see that. Case in point, if I made bottles of water, and I called it Lance's Water. And we came in and I was able to have it bottled, labeled, packed, shipped, and on the shelf for 50 cents a bottle. I'm not going to come in and cut a deal to a competitor who's simply rebranding my water and let them put it on the shelf for 25 cents a bottle. So it's typically going to be, if I'm Stahlwille here and I'm the 50 cent a bottle water, I'm not going to let them be 25. I'm going to make them be $1 a bottle, and then people will be more inclined to purchase my water, even if this one's maybe a little fancier or marketed better, whatever the case may be. So if I had to go off pure assumption here, this is the exact same brush. Stahlwille either makes it, or whoever they're buying it from, both of these companies are sourcing them there, and Stahlwille just does a significantly greater volume. Maybe Hazet gets them cheaper and marks them up. That would be insanity, but that's sort of where I'm at. I can't prove any of that. It's just an assumption based on common sense and what I've seen in my time on this planet. Bottom line, this is the best brush. It's the best price. It's a no-brainer. Second place, I would actually put the Hazet, because it was just way better to work with. If this was my two options here, if Stahlwille was gone and these were the only two brushes we could get, I would actually pay a little bit more for the Hazet brush personally, because I think it's going to do the job quicker, I think it's going to last longer, and it's going to make my time cleaning spark plugs a little bit more enjoyable. So I would rather buy this once than buy and replace this multiple times and get the job done quicker with a better quality brush. So that's where I stand. Again, if anyone knows, is this really made by Gedore? Is this truly a Hazet and that's truly a Stahlwille? Did one of them copy the other? Did Hazet have this and Stahlwille was like, oh, that's a good design, let's use it? I don't know those answers. If anyone does, by all means let us know. But again, if I had my hunches be correct, Stahlwille makes it. They rebrand it for Hazet. Case in point, when I was cleaning the plugs, did you notice anything? This one's so cheap they don't really care to brand it. With Hazet, when I'm cleaning the plug, you would have no idea. With Stahlwille, when I'm cleaning it, since the logo isn't down here on the handle grabbing, you know, where it's obscured by my hand, you see that I'm using a Stahlwille brush. Little things like that. And then with Hazet, it's going to be turned over and grabbed. You're never going to see the logo. Subtle things kind of give you hints, but in terms of how they cleaned up, this is plug one. This is the Gedore plug. I think if you give me more time with it, we would have been fine. Again, it can work. It's just going to take a little bit longer. The Hazet brush actually did a really nice job on this one. Again, I realize that doesn't look good. I limited myself to 30 seconds, but when you consider where we started, that's a significant improvement for 30 seconds. And lastly, our half of a spark plug here that Stahlwille got to work with, aside from the times I dropped it, I'd say it was on its track, its path to cleaning it up very nice. So that's my synopsis on this. Again, this is kind of going to be the style we'll do with the screwdrivers and some other products. We'll get their lengths, we'll get their weights, we'll see how they actually perform head to head in as close of a similar scenario as we can provide, and we'll take it from there. But the battery light's flashing. I better wrap this up. If you enjoyed, please leave a like. If you have not subscribed, make sure to check things out. If you like what you see, please subscribe. Your support would be appreciated. It would help the channel out, kind of get more people following suit, maybe find something they enjoy passing time with. Rainy days, weekends, whatever it might be. If you're not following along on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, you can find us at Lone Star Mopars, the website, lonestarmopars.com. That said, all of these were sourced from KC Tool. Final rankings, Stahlwille number 1, Hazet number 2, Gedore number 3. Let me know if you agree or disagree, if you bought these and used them, how are you liking them? And true story, I do use spark plug brushes, but I also bought one of those cheap cleaners. It was Sunex, actually. It wasn't Harbor Freight, it was Sunex. And it does a really good job, and it's a lot quicker than this. But from time to time, I like to brush them down. And the big perk here, if you do landscape, if you do small engine stuff, this is something you can have in the toolbox. Not a lot of people are out mowing lawns or, you know, servicing, cutting trees and have an air compressor on them. So this is a simple cleanup. If you ever do foul a plug, that's sort of where they would still fall into use in today's modern world. But like I said, Stahlwille takes the cake in this one, and I will catch you back here for more from the shop.